Hello, everybody. How are you? It's Conscious Medium Brandon Russ. And anything going on in the news? Anything going on right there during this full moon in Leo? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? I'm going to go ahead and open up one of my channels. Oh, gosh. What kind of a professional am I? I think it's letting me know that I'm actually streaming right now, which is kind of cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. YouTube, I'm figuring out your technology. You're figuring out the Brandon. Did I just refer to myself as the talent? I think I did. I want to thank you guys for joining me here. We're having a little bit of fun here tonight. Leo and the full moon. Holy Toledo. This is, this is one of those that are just kind of like tricky and unpredictable. And astrologers all over YouTube have been talking about this, about how this is just going to be kind of like a little bit of a tough energy for, especially for the fixed signs, because you get the fixed grand cross going on right now. If you haven't seen my video about the Leo new moon, I actually break down each one of the signs in that sun, moon, rising for you. But I'm going to actually, I want to point out this, this guy here. Oh, I'll just put it right over my face because that's good. That's good radio right there. So the full moon in Leo and the fixed grand cross sitting here, this is a thing that we were all talking about, right? And I actually go in depth again for each one of the signs here. But this is the energy in the sky right now. So you have this, when you have fixed energy like this, and if it was to turn the dial in the south and north node were, move to say cardinal energy or mutable energy, the energy in the sky would be different. The fixed energy is kind of this naturally tough, are you sure you want to do it this way energy. This full moon in Leo, which is about endings and cycles and whatever. I mean, I think, if I can be the pontiff, did I just call myself a pope? The only pope I want to be is a lead singer of Ghost. There, I said it. Like 10 of you got that, and the other 10 of you just looked up the band Ghost. You're welcome. Anyway, so if I can be a pundit here about this could actually, you're seeing this balloon get blown up over, where is it, South Carolina? This could be the end of relations with China, and I'm about to show you in the chart that it ain't pretty. And by the way, I'm not a fearmonger. You guys know that. I'm going to put a positive spin on it. But something had to change in order for this relationship to begin to foster itself in a different direction. The challenge with China, and there's a lot of speculation with this, with any prophetic terms. It's funny, no matter where you go in, like, say, ancient scriptures like the Bible or what have you, you do not find reference to China aside from either the dragon or the red, or there's something kind of obscure, which, okay, we'll take it for the grain of salt that it is. But way back in the day, if you take a look at tarot, and I'm gonna point this out, in tarot, the fixed grand cross is represented on the Wheel of Fortune card. By the way, it's actually featured in another card as well. Go ahead, talk about it down below. I'll start getting to the comments here in a second. I just wanted to do a little bit of an opening here. But the dynamic here for me is, see how Scorpio is in the South Node? Well, that kind of represents China. And I'm going to talk about it here in a second. So Scorpio was the evolution of a water sign. Now you're like, when you first start getting into astrology, you're like, really? Scorpios are water? Well, they kind of are. But there was a piece to it that you might not understand. Once upon a time, and we're talking ancient texts, we're talking about going way back. We're talking about going back to a time where dragons were actually part of the conversation on a regular basis. Scorpios were actually the dragon symbol. And here it is sitting in the South Node. I'm going to show you the China chart so I can thoroughly convince you that right now we're in the middle of a major change. So hang on a second, guys. Let me give you a little bumper here and I'll get right back to it. Enjoy my opening. Oh, jeez Louise. There we go. Where am I? Here I come, everybody. Don't worry. Figure it out just soon enough. Oh, there was my thing. How about there? I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I do all my own stunts. All right, so I really don't get out much. Apparently, Sunday nights are the nights for me to actually get some work done. All right, guys, so listen, taking a look at this chart, remember how I kind of presented it here, that China is actually the dragon, right? So we'll take it with the grain of salt that it is, and we'll start to kind of look at what we have to be in store with. Well, the People's Republic of China came into existence in 1949, caused all sorts of turmoil over there. And true to form, where the United States was kind of doing imperialism, it actually stemmed, as many of you know from a historical context, a ton of conflicts. Not necessarily with China, but all the way around China, right? We had the Korean War in the early 50s, and then we had Vietnam through the late 60s, early 70s. So we've kind of been in this quasi kind of passive-aggressive war with China for a very long time. And then we got into a trade war with them, which is, just kind of like, working around where the technology is. Well, all of a sudden they start sending balloons over here. And by the way, the criticism of Biden, and his timing to kind of shoot this down, I'm telling you, there's an astrological reason. And I'm not letting Trump or the other balloons off, or Biden off, for letting the other balloons go by. I'm telling you, astrologically, it makes a ton of sense that we're going through this tough energy. Again, I'm not defending him. I'm just going to tell it like it is. Politically, there's a whole bunch of other stuff here. But let's take a look at China here for a second. The first thing that draws me in is the two primary houses are the 7th and the 8th, right? The 7th and the 8th house, the 7th being the relationship house. And by the way, today is literally the last day that you can get the $100 discount for the relationship astrology class. I teach how to break down a chart in relationships. Now, I'm not working on your relationships. You don't want me to do that. But what I will do is I'll show you where it is in the chart. I think you'll enjoy it. But anyways, click on the links below. You can get my book, great Valentine's Day present. I mean, I don't know if it is or not, but I don't know. If you need a reason, justify it. And then also, if you want to book a reading with me, you're going to go to my website, tbrandonruss.com, tbrandonruss.com. You're going to find everything that you need there. You can buy the book there if you need to, or you can follow the link. You get it. 7th house, relationships. Sitting in this 7th house, and by the way, I've seen a lot of astrologers turn towards the whole house system. I think that's fine, but there's a reason why I use the Placidus here, is because this is a true reflection of the size of the house. In other words, you're not giving a little bit of extra there. You're actually not always telling the full story. I like to stay consistent with those houses. I understand the reason to use whole house systems. The biggest part that you're going to see, let's just take the 11th and the 5th house. Aquarius is a shortest time of astrology, right? Well, the 11th house is the smallest because that lines up with Aquarius. Whole house systems just says 30 days are 30 days. Everybody gets 30 days around here. You no more, no less. You get 30 days. Do you get it? Do you understand it? That's what whole house system is. I know, call me a purist. I still sort of don't like the DH. You guys understand it. Anyways, 5 of you are getting my jokes, and that's okay. But when we take a look at the 7th house, you're taking a look at the relationships that they're actually capable of. Now, we're going to table that for a second, and then we're going to take a look at the 8th house. The 8th house has the sun. It is conjunct to Mercury, which is conjunct to Neptune. Woo-hoo, what does that mean? What does that mean? Let's take a look at the sun here for just a second. And by the way, you have this very, as a country, as a politic, China has this reputation of being very kind of dry, emotionless. Take a look at the first house. Aquarian moon. Doesn't get much colder than that sometimes when it comes to emotion. And by the way, you would need some good old-fashioned water signs coming in. Guess what? I'm hitting the button, but nothing's coming, right? The emotional side, the only true emotional side to China is this is where Uranus is placed in the 5th house. There's some creativity there in their rebellion. Hold on a second, Chairman Mao. We're coming for you. And the 9th house being in Scorpio with Venus, but it's not necessarily an emotional, and that's kind of a deep emotional placement. But what it also, where it's placed in the 9th house, is really about we need to propagate the world. You know, there's two problems that these very large countries have right now. Russia is having this problem, and China is having this problem. And I'm going to be geopolitical right now for a minute. They haven't replaced their population. I mean, the U.S. has this challenge too, but they have. I mean, we have set up a Ponzi scheme called Social Security and investment portfolios and that sort of thing. We're going to suffer in that way. When it comes to China, they need personnel. They need manpower. They need people to be able to come in behind it and do the job that the other people just fell off or became dissidents or whatever. They're not doing that. So when we take a look at these guys as a country and in their formation, they would have a natural challenge for creating family, right? I mean, they were slowing it down in the 80s. You guys remember that? When they were like, oh, you know, well, you only get one boy. You only get one child. And then all of a sudden, everybody's adopting from China. I know 3 people that adopted girls from China during this time. And it was because, you know, they could, you know, all they had to do is just get there and sign for it. I mean, it was basically an airline ticket and, you know, you don't really know too much. They called, they answered the call. They were the humans on the spot. And as a government, they really didn't care. They really didn't care. You know, and that's the one thing that gets me about immigration. You know, we have all these people coming to this country. Where's the pride of the countries of the people leaving those countries? Total rabbit hole. Back on China here. So in the 8th house, you've got the sun. It's sitting here in Libra, which is the pursuant of balance, right? And then you have Mercury, the communication sighting, right? The master ruler of Gemini, the conversation piece, right? Then you have Neptune, hopes and dreams. Now I'm going to turn it on its side. It's also the Scorpio house. It's about mistrust. It's about other people's money. By the way, isn't China leveraging US and all their debt? Hang on to that for a second. But you have this conjunct of sitting there in the 8th house, in the Scorpio house, which is the personality of sex and death and taxes and other people's money. You have delusion sitting right there with a juncture of Neptune and Mercury. I'm not trying to dismantle China. And by the way, I've probably already gotten banned in China. I consider it a badge of honor. But those 3 remarks right there. And again, you've got the North Node conjunct here to Neptune as well, which basically means that it is this destiny of delusion and communicating delusion. And by the way, it's also implying things like we'll create the narrative. We're the ones that are going to say what the news is. We're the ones that are, if we don't like what you say, By the way, you also have Uranus square to Mercury. Well, what do you think that means? From the 5th to the 8th house, this is we're going to do what you tell us to do. We're going to create nationalism. It's a very nationalism symbol, by the way, to have Uranus, the rebellion, right? The rebellion planet. going up against Mercury here in a square, having that influence, saying, you're going to do what we tell you to do. We're not going to do that. It creates dissidence. Now, back on that 7th house, you've got little old Saturn sitting there going, we're in charge. We have to run this. Oh, you don't think so? Take a look at our buddies down below with Pluto and Mars in conjunction in Leo. They are not going to let you be in charge in that relationship. We're going to wear the pants, China says. We're going to be the ones in charge, China says. By the way, if you need something to look at China to say that they will eventually go off the rails, all you have to do is take a look at their 12th house with Jupiter sitting in there. In Capricorn, that is about their economy. That is about, and by the way, when everything is clicking for them, when they are in charge, when everything's going okay, it's going great. We're going to grow. By the way, I think everybody outside of the United States should just adopt an Eastern European accent. It would make my comedy so much better. But you have Jupiter sitting in the 12th house of, that's one of those things. It's kind of like a bottle rocket, right? And it goes off. If you got it in the right direction, it's going to go off. It's going to be beautiful. But if it doesn't, it does one of these and everybody's got a duck. That's what that is. That's what Jupiter sitting in the 12th house is telling us right now. So as a country, that's what they're doing. I mean, that's them on their thing. Oh, no, Kimberly, calm down. Stay for the whole thing. Don't just listen to the first part and go, oh, no, there we go. Hey, Tinker Toy Yorkie, love that name. Thanks for showing up. Pearl, how are you from Pennsylvania? One of my favorite states of the Union. Can't wait to get there. I'm going to be in Philadelphia, I think. That's how we roll. So that's a quick look at China. What do you guys think about that? Sitting there in the 8th house, wandering around, that kind of like quiet deception. That kind of like, hey, we're going to kind of be under the radar. We're going to be a little sneaky, sneak. Well, I think you guys are going to like where I go with this one. So let's take a look at China in the U.S. Uh-oh. Now, this is static, right? These are 2 natal charts. And what is a natal chart but the birth chart? It's on the day they were born. It does not change. It does not move. We're not talking about what's going on in the sky right now. But when we compare the 2 of them, we can assess what kind of relationship they're going to have. By the way, click on the link below and join my relationship class. Starts a week from Wednesday. Discount ends at midnight. So taking a look at this, the 3 things that jump out at me. 3 things that jump out at me is first and foremost, one thing I did forget to mention is, and you can see it here on the outer wheel, which is where China is, there is a Venus Mars square in their chart. Now, what the Venus Mars square is kind of that kind of like, well, I kind of do what I want. I'm going to let them know I care. In a personal chart, you're like, hello, I've noticed you from across the room and I'd like to share my goldfish with you. And then they say, oh my gosh, I love crackers. And then you go, no, I have live fish. Like, you might not come off the right way, but you're kind of have good intention, sort of, a little bit. China has that in their chart. Now, comparing China to the United States, well, here we go. The first thing that jumps out at me, is the sun squared. We ain't supposed to get along, everybody. Conflict, tension. Are you sure you're going to do it that way? Now, for China to be in the United Nations, and by the way, where in the frig is the United Nations in all of this? Just wondering. Just going to put that one out there. But when you have a square, bam, bam, when it comes in like this, when it's like the U.S. goes, I'm going to send my sunshine this way, and then they go, we're going to send our balloon this way, and then they go into a T-square like this, and then it's like, oh, this is a square. This is like, oh, this is an intersection. This is a T-bone. This is an insurance claim. Hope you're in a no-fault state. Well, guess what? That's in their 8th house, and our sun, the United States, is in the 8th house as well. But it doesn't quite line up. Oh, Brandon, did you just infer that the 8th house is about secrets? I kind of did. Did I just establish that the United States is built on secrets just like China is? I did. By the way, we have so many similarities. One distinct difference, though, and I'm going to point this out. So in that 8th house, we have it's not even a conjunct. The conjunct for the United States isn't Mercury and Neptune. It is Jupiter and Venus, just inside the conjunct measure, just inside the conjunct with Venus. But that's in the 8th and the 7th house. So guess what? Jupiter and Venus together. Our identity is built on, guess what? Empowering others. We want to empower others. Listen, I'm not being a homer here. You know, China has such disgust for the Western astrology. They came up with their own astrology. What is this, the year of the ox? Is it the rabbit? All I can think of, whenever I hear it's the year of the rabbit, I just go to Grace Slick. I'm not going to sing it because it'll get flagged. But look at where, when you do these shapes, and by the way, when you compare charts like this in synastry charts, synastry, you take these houses and you roll them over so the houses match up to where it would be in your chart. So this is how we establish that the sun is square, right? It's in the 8th house for the US. It's in what would look like the 10th house. So they're going to have a very public piece of what's going on right now. This is going to be a very public relationship all the time, right? We're going to try and keep the secrets. And I know some of you are saying, why don't you reverse the two of them and see what it looks like? Kind of looks the same. But you have Uranus coming over the top of Pluto and Venus conjunct. Well, what does that mean? They're like, that's not the way we do it. We're going to do it differently. We're going to empower them from the inside. Welcome to Taiwan, everybody. 99-year deal. Oh, why did we give up Taiwan and Hong Kong? And anyways. But you'll also notice that Venus is in our 12th house. In other words, our influence to this is going to be like, you know, we want to have a love-hate relationship with them. We just do. It's just the way that they roll. But here's the other challenge with this. Our stability as a country is about the very public piece of balance. How do we know that? Saturn in Libra is in our 10th house. They're trying to disrupt our balance as a country. Like, that's their goal from day one. Have you ever met somebody and you're just not sure why it is they have a beef with you? Like, all the time. They're just like, I don't really care as long as they don't win. It's like that scene in Star Wars where he says, you know, I don't care if the Empire wins. I just want Kylo Ren to lose. Well, that's what this chart is. China doesn't really care about the fair outcome to this. And again, I'm not trying to scare anybody. They're going to do whatever it is they need to do to be like, you know, it'd be like, you know, if Ping was to hear about these balloons and say, can we fly one over the U.S.? Well, yes, we can do that. Well, let's do that then, because that'll tick them off. Like, it's the type of thing, it's like, if China was a person, they would take your parking spot every single day, knowing full well your name is on it. They just would. That's what this setup is. That's what this chart looks like, right? Oh, and by the way, remember when I talked about the timing of things? I'm going to go back to this right here. I'm going to bounce around a little bit, but I'm going to go to this guy here. And what you have in the sky right now, do you see in the 7th house, relationships? And then the 10th house, public career perception. You have the very squirrely Mars in Gemini square to Venus. Now, where have I seen that before? Oh, yeah, it's in China's chart. So they feel empowered right now. We're also getting it handed to them a little bit because we're, you know, finders keepers, bitches. And how did a balloon fly across like 7 other states with like open carry laws and that thing not get shot down? Were you afraid of starting an intergalactic dispute? if I can go full like Independence Day. Now look at this. People are still joining. Well, I'm glad that you're joining, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Click like and subscribe. Join the class coming up next week for relationships. But this is the energy in the sky, right? You got the fixed grand cross, which is a natural pain in the ass. Got to work through it. Not everything's going to go your way. Everybody gets hung up on Mercury retrogrades. Mercury retrogrades are great resets if you do them the right way. Fixed grand crosses are pain in the ass. It looks like a proctology appointment. It truly does. I mean, look at it. It looks like the proctologist is like, did you clear enough? Did you clear? Because if you didn't, we're just gonna do this. I'm sorry, is that too much? But it looks uncomfortable. It looks like it's supposed to be awkward on its best day, right? And oh, by the way, remember when we talked about Scorpio and the dragon? Well, right now, we've got, they're sitting in this North Node. And by the way, that's sitting in the 3rd house. The communication is sort of squirrely right now. Wouldn't you agree? No. We choose to retaliate at a different time. What kind of nonsense is that? How about we're sorry, you know what? Most people, most countries, most rational people would literally sit there and do this. You know what? You caught us. Sorry about that. How about if we give you a couple of fab chips? What do you say we reduce our tariffs for a couple of months? Yeah, that's all right. Kind of finders keepers. We do it that way. Can we kind of get that stuff back a little bit? No, okay, all right. That's fine. Most people would have had kind of that mea culpa moment and said, okay, here you go. But not with this chart. With this China-US chart, I got to tell you, and I'm going to make this bigger here because I know you guys really like it when you can get like right up on it. I'm not going to cover the moneymaker. But look at this Scorpio energy, right? And again, I'm going to point this out. Where you have, what is the United States worth, right? As we have this Pluto return, which just happened, right? Where we're trying to figure out who the hell we are. China is actually a really good backdrop for us to figure out who we are as a country. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is. Look at China's, Mars, Pluto. I mean, we're almost, and again, I know we're really kind of wide angle here. We've got 10 degrees, but you've got Pluto at 17 degrees. Yeah, much further than that. But you've kind of got this opposition stuff going on from the 2nd to the 8th house. Let's just focus in on that. So the U.S. has Pluto in the 2nd house, practicality, money. Let's kind of be real about this, right? Worst thing we ever did was go to fiat money, right? We lost that, which is why there's so much upheaval right now. But then you have Pluto really just in general in opposition, at least in the house opposition. Pluto and Leo with a conjunct to Mars, they're going to be a pain in our ass to our structure and stability till the end of time. Just who they are. So we either have to figure out a way to really kind of work with them and sit them down and say, listen, Jan, we know you're jealous of Marcia. But if you could, for 30 seconds, pipe down and take your balloon and go home. David Tell had a great thing where, you'd carry around a balloon and he'd say, I want to go on the fly. It's kind of what China's doing right now. By the way, the stuff that they shot down was some seriously high-tech stuff. Like, seriously high-tech stuff. And before everybody's like, well, they could kind of get surveillance stuff from, from whatever it is that they think that they get, military installations or production plants. Trust me, that's whatever. They were intercepting communications, guys. Those are communication satellites. They're trying to hear what we're saying all the time. By the way, where was your phone manufactured? In my mind, they don't need balloons. They got everything they needs. They know your search history, everybody, no matter what you delete. And if you, I'm not even gonna say it. I have an edit button even on a Sunday night. But understand though, that the energy in the sky with this Leo full moon, the end of cycles, the end of dynamics, is this the end of maybe even our tension? Let's think positive here for a second. Maybe this is a way for us to really start to sit down at a table with them. And again, you can be negative if you want to, but let's astrologically look at this and say, maybe this is an opportunity for us to say, so we have one of your balloons. What do you say we sit down and we talk about this? You know, all those tariffs, you know, all that spy information that you put into our cell phones. Come on. There's something particular about what's going on. The timing of this, during a full moon, by the way, the full moon started on Saturday when they shot it down, just about. Right? It hit its height at about 1 o'clock p.m. on Sunday. And now we have something that they need, something they want, their technology back. Because we could very easily reverse engineer all of it. And by the way, why the heck did we shoot it down over water? Please, for the love of Pete. That's my criticism. My criticism isn't waiting a couple of days. I get political expediency here, but reclaim it. If we don't get it, it's a mood issue. It's a mood issue. We kick the bee's hive without getting the honey. Don't do that. You got to get the honey, Biden. Dingleberry. Jesus, for the love of Pete. By the way, I have no love for each side. You guys do know that. I'm an equal opportunity critic here. But I also will point out when they do something right. Shoot down, yes. 4 days, no. And by the way, you mean I still go back to this. You mean there isn't some vigilante that was sitting there going, I saw this on the Rush Jones show and I was able to figure out how to hit this from a 200 yards and, Hannity swears by it. So, I just got this long range shooter. It's for shooting balloons. Watch it, by the way. Watch some firearm company start to advertise that they can hit something 30,000 feet in the air. Watch. Guarantee it. I guarantee it. By the way, those RMEs that they keep selling out the back of a truck, first of all, they have no nutritional value, guys. None. These RMEs that people have been stocking away and putting in whatever. Oh, and then at least Alex Jones is honest and doing erectile dysfunction going, everybody hits a certain age. They hit a certain age and they drink a certain amount of vodka, allegedly. And then, they need a little help. They need a little help. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying help, right? They always say we should ask for help. Well, this man asked for help, and you can too by buying my penis pills. Oh, Jesus Christ. But watch, they run on fear. They run on fear. Putting that up and having them chase balloons, there'll be like a balloon watch channel. Watch. I will bet you guys a month of tarot cards that at some point somebody is going to target market balloon assassinations. It's gonna happen. Government's not there to protect you. You can protect yourself. It's got you. Do you know that the land that you own, you own it clear up to the sky as far as you can see? That's yours. That's all yours. They can't put anything over it. They can't put anything under it. You own it all the way up and down to the core. It's your job to defend it. That's why the AK 29,000 feet is your rifle to shoot down any of these balloons. We're just it's gonna get used the wrong way. It's in the astrology, guys. right? The communication's askew. The idea that people capitalize on this, that's, talk about being conscious, pay attention to that. That's why I'm being this satirical, like, doofus right now. Because you genuinely see this and it's convincing people left and right. You know what we need to do? We need to have the people in charge do their job. Pick up that satellite and say, throw in the back, we'll go over and talk to them. Right? It's kind of like, you remember when you were like 8 or 9 years old and you had that one neighbor? And we all had this neighbor. And if you didn't have a neighbor, your friend had this neighbor. Like you didn't quite get to 6 degrees of the ornery neighbor. And they wouldn't like you to go onto their lawn. And you're playing baseball or kickball or whatever. And the ball's eventually going to go over the fence. Right? The right thing to do is to ring the doorbell and say, Mr. Muck and Sus, I'm sorry. We kicked the ball. The wind caught it. Whatever. It blew over. Can I go into your backyard and get your ball? And of course, what would happen? The humanistic standpoint would start to happen. You would just be a little kid. You were no longer the annoying kid in the yard, screeching and carrying on and cheering and high-fiving. You were then like a human that treated somebody with respect. Right? By proxy, it was that neighbor's opportunity to say, hey, I was wondering if maybe you could just turn the field a little bit so you don't hit it so far into my yard all the time. Because I don't want you climbing the fence when I'm not home. I'm just genuinely concerned. Then all of a sudden a dialogue opens up. Next thing you know, you start inviting them over for dinners because you realize that there's circumstances. They're alone, or they're taking care of somebody, or there's real reasons. They might have loss, they might have trauma. And again, I know I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but the real point is that isn't this time for us to be the grown-up and say, we need to sit down at a table and talk about this? I understand postponing a trip, but Blinken, I still can't believe that's his name. Hey, Blinken! Really needs to go over there and sit down and say, so we found your ball in our backyard. Can we talk about this? What are you guys really up to? How are you justified to kick your ball over our country with all your spy stuff on it? We also took a look at all the technology, and we have it now too, but what are you going to do differently next time? Why do you feel the need to do this? We need to kind of get to the root cause. China's sending a balloon over the country is not a couple of kids playing kickball and having the wind catch it just right to send it over the neighbor's lawn. There's something more here. There's something that allows them to think they could do it. There's something that allows them to, that they feel justified. And honestly, you guys see this a lot with me. And even when I talk about political things, I still go back to one thing all the time. Do the right thing. The people that are in charge need to be in charge. For right or wrong, you can criticize everybody for their decision making in the moment. Do the best you can. You've got to move this forward and allow it to be an example to open up the dialogue. Our son is squared to their son. They're going to be the jealous younger brother all the time. That's just the way it is. And we are going to look at them and say, communism bad. Communism doesn't have to be bad. We have elements of communism in our country. We actually thrive under elements of communism. Don't think so? Go on unemployment. Are you getting Social Security? What kind of socialism? I mean, it's contributed base communism, but it's for a community good. It's so that then people don't hit a certain age and then they're just broke one day. That's just inhumane because we have a structure set up that you contribute for so many years, and then there you go. The cruel people will say, you should have saved. The humane people will say, is that enough? We should be having a really hard conversation with China right now. We should be saying to them in no uncertain terms, if you're going to play kickball like this, we're going to put up a bigger fence. We're not going to shoot it when it goes all the way through all 9 states. We're going to shoot it as soon as it hits the tip of Alaska. Just to let you know. And then we're going to scoop it up, and we're going to bring it to the UN, and we're going to let them deal with you. Because we still need an intermediary, because if we start taking care of this, we're going to shoot down your balloons over there. We don't want to escalate this. That's the tone I think we all want to hear. But I think we have to stand up for certain things. We can't keep bending over. We can't keep having people in these key positions be compromised and say, oh yeah, well we know about this and there's hush money there and there's blah, blah, blah this and blah, blah, blah that. Let's stand up and want the best for everybody. China, there's absolutely no reason to have balloons over our country. Please. So why don't you own up to it, explain it, so we can have an honest conversation. And then we'll decide whether we'll allow your imports ever again. Maybe we'll all just have to have a couple of tough years, as we all might have to take a manual job of a couple hours a week to start to overcome all the technology that we've kind of gotten used to. Maybe we might have to make our own stuff for a while. Maybe this is us just discovering who we are as a country again. And China letting go that balloon and letting it come over here could be the best thing that ever happened to us, because we might become more self-reliant, because that is the Pluto return. That is us looking at the practicality of who we are and what we want to be based on and what are we empowered by. We've given away our power to a whole bunch of other things, some in compromise, but some because, like China, they just took it. There was no negotiation. They took over all the cobalt facilities. So they had they cornered the market on the pieces that you need for your phone. Cobalt mining is a big, big business. And I'm going to use the S word here. It's run by slaves. We get so appalled by slavery, as we should. But what the United States did to build itself in the 1700s into the 1800s doesn't even hold a candle to what's going on in 2023. China, in its chart, is an authoritarian nation, done in secret, without remorse. We are in conflict with that. How do you overcome it? And I'm not talking about a couple of politicians that grease their pockets. They have a systematic way to make sure that they're in charge. That's what we have to pay attention to right now. They think they can do whatever they want. Well, Jan, sit down. Because it's more about what Marcia needs. All right, guys, I want to thank you guys for joining me today. How did I get so political? Oh, by the way, I didn't even bring up the 99 Loft balloons. By the way, go back and listen to that. It's actually about how a balloon floats over and it's considered an act of war and it initiates World War III. And how it's like one person sends over one balloon. It was really about German and Russian. It was that conflict that they were talking about. And the song escalates into, like, you send your balloon over, we'll send our balloon over. And then we send 3 balloons over, you send 3 balloons over. It's kind of that idea. And before you know it, it's like, you didn't mean balloons, you meant tactical warheads. So we're going to start sending tactical warheads while you send tactical warheads. It's about annihilation. And it's a nice little poppy song. 99 sail up balloon. Hey, Judith, how are you? Oh, Kimberly, I'm glad you're laughing. Yeah, Apple is moving to India. By the way, that cobalt thing, India could be our last hope here, guys. India and Brazil are 2 countries that are fulfilling their population quota. They're just like, whoop. Like, do you need babies? We'll make some more babies. right? It's like El Camino. That was a Star Wars reference for those of you that are paying attention. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoy it. You know, doing some more lives here, and again, this is a stream of conscious episode. I don't know what number I'm on. I'm just gonna start doing them. I figure instead of doing any cut edits or any of that other stuff, I'll still have some other stuff coming down the pipe. Oh, a couple of things I'm working on here. I've got a George Santos cut I'm going to do here. I'm going to get this out. I got to tell you, and I got to get it out quick. I think his day of reckoning, I should probably do this now because I think it's coming up quick. He's got some stuff in his chart that's just going to be like, you think this fixed Grand Cross is a pain in the ass? By the way, you know what's taken me so long to get George Santos's information, get his chart out, is he's got like 4 birthdays. He's got 4 birthdays. He's got 2 different names. He's got different birth. Couldn't find. I mean, usually the challenge is getting a birth time because you want to have the birth time because that really helps you with the houses and explains a lot more that way. But I'm not kidding you. There's like 4 birthdays for him. I finally went on the House of Representatives website and got his birth date, and then it took me a little bit more to find. I found 3 or 4, so I don't know if it's rooted in truth or if some astrologer just said, you know what, he's probably born at whatever time it was, like 249 or whatever it was. But I found it comical that I could not find. I couldn't find any information. I couldn't find the correct information on George Santos, and none of that should surprise anybody. He could have been a volleyball star. All right, guys, I want to thank you guys for being a part of things. Thank you so much for being a part of my channel here. Remember to like and subscribe. You want to support the channel more, become a member. Got a couple of levels there for that. Class for relationship astrology. I really break it down. You get a whole handbook. You have reference guides. You have all of this great stuff for you to be able to kind of learn astrology. It's a fast enough pace if you're familiar with it, but it's a slow enough pace if you're new at it. Also, you can go ahead and set up a one-on-one with me. I give you a whole chart. We can talk about predictive astrology. We can talk about natal astrology. And of course, you guys know I'm a certified medium. I travel the world with that stuff too. A little bit of everything. Book is out. Everybody loves it. I'm going to give you guys a heart tap to remind one another that we love and care for each other, and to remind you to simply keep going. Thanks, guys, so much for being part of my channel, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.